The quote says, nobody knows if a stock's going up, down, or sideways, but we have to pretend that we know. Matthew McConaughey's line from Wolf of Wall Street is a farce because there's no pretending when it comes to Shooter Hunt and the trajectory of MLB draft stock. Welcome into a fresh coffee and curveballs. I'm Cory McCartney, along with the aforementioned Shooter Hunt. And Shooter, now into April, we've entered that pivotal stretch where every state, save Iowa, is playing high school baseball games. With that said, stocks are rising and it is a changing the complexity of prep players when it comes to this summer's MLB draft.
Yeah, constantly getting out there and shout out to our boots on the ground staff with guys all over with the largest scouting system, the internal sharing of information as guys are going. You're down there in Georgia. Ian Smith goes out to see Jack Bauer hit 1-2. There's guys all over the place. And the cold weather guys are just getting going. So some of this list, it's more looks at some Southern guys, some warm weather kids, Texas, Georgia, Florida. So you see some of those names, but those cold weather guys are going to make a huge impact in the back half of this. And we're constantly reevaluating and looking for the next big names to make their impact.
Your portfolio focused on players with tons of upside, and shouldn't we expect that a scout to be playing the futures game? But let's dive into the five big time risers, beginning with Alabama third baseman and Crimson Tide signee Caleb Barnett. He had the 109 exit velos, 84.5 mile per hour bat speed, riding the momentum of his Super 60 appearance. Barnett now up to 13th on the big board.
Yeah, I think the Super 60 is going to yield a lot of impact. There's some other guys as well, even down in your neck of the woods, that will be doing some big things that we'll talk about here. But Caleb Barnett, it's unteachable tools, right? 6'5", 6'6". It can really move well through impact. The hit tool, the power tool. He's a guy going back into the summer where when he takes BP, it sounds different. You get up close and personal there in Chicago. Still super young looking. Like there's still so much more to dream on with the frame, which is only going to impact the power production. What does he do at third base? Oh, he's silky smooth over there. He can also hop on the mound, which he's doing in high school. Really good competitor. I think the upside's hugely apparent there, whether it's going to be at Alabama for 3 years and then be a top 10 pick, or a guy that some team in potentially the back half of the first round says, hey, we can't allow this guy to go to school. That remains to be seen as something we'll see in July. But Caleb Barnett, huge upside, huge ceiling, might be one of the highest in this class.
Asked his preseason goals by Prep Baseball New Jersey, Don Bosco press Nikki Becker said, elite county and state champ, Gatorade Player of the Year, and put myself in the best position to make a decision. After a summer of upward trajectory, the Virginia signee may have a decision to make. Shooter, he jumps up to 14th.
I mean, with Coach Rooney, Coach Swadika, Coach Jalalia there, Don Bosco feeding him lines like that, you got to be impressed by what he's doing there, Nicky Becker, but continues to rise. His brother, Eric, who's really good at UVA, he'll be on the board as a potential first rounder for next year. I was such a huge fan of his. He played with Caden Dana back with that Don Bosco squad, who's now starting for the Angels and their starting staff. Really good athlete, impacted the summer in a big way, can defend. I can't wait to get to the Northeast to see what he's all about. But 6'3", 180, chance to stick at shortstop, bat the balls there, competitor, athlete. There's all sorts of boxes he's checking, and the success of those cold weather bats in professional baseball, especially recently, is only going to allow him to mitigate those risks and have a lot of decision makers rolling into North Jersey and checking out Don Bosco, who it's going to be tough to win that state championship because there's some really good teams in New Jersey this year.
I walked away from our Super 60 interviews really impressed by Maryland's Aiden West, the NC State signee. Got a great story to tell. His grandpa, Eddie, a former Wolfpack quarterback. And then he hit the max and is the number one player in the Free State, rips off a 104.5 exit velo, 6.53 in the 60. I love him in Raleigh, but there may be some MLB clubs that could love him a little bit more, as West is now up to 16th.
Yeah, he was probably the most impactful guy outside of Caleb Barnett that I saw at the Super 60. That bat the ball, the tight window quickness from the left side. You look at that data that you just mentioned. He's 6'2", 205, and he's dancing at 6'5" down the line for a 60-yard dash time. But then the power, the hit tool, looks good at shortstop. Will he stick there? Honestly, will anybody stick at shortstop? It's really tough to do, but you're going to get the chance to do that. Those guys in the DMV, the Maryland area, you think Jackson Merrill, you think James Triantos, they keep having such success that a kid like that, you got to continue to get those looks at. His conference isn't great for the high school season, so it'll be interesting to see what he does there, potentially going to the MLB draft league. We'll see what happens there. Could get some really good at bats. You think Brendan Lawson, who's doing big stuff at the University of Florida right now as a freshman, had a good time at the MLB draft league. but the 5-tool potential, he's a guy who can really get after, plays hard. There's power in the bat. I'm excited for what Aiden West's upside will be, whether it's this year on day one or going to NC State, where they've produced so many really good players. He has all sorts of good options.
Nick Partridge out of Florida's Mulberry High climbs from 83rd to 36th on the board, the second ranked player in the state, whose state rankings are always catnip for draft nicks. Partridge has made himself absolutely stand out. Hit 457 a year ago, shined in the Florida preseason classic, and it all has the scouting community buzzing over this Gator signing.
Yeah, and the cool thing, we talked about the portfolio picks, which, hey, they may be for this year or in 3 years. These are guys that we like the tools, and we're always trying to evaluate those tools, right? You step on the field, the bat, the ball, the pitch recognition of Nick Partridge is clearly there. I think his frame's going to continue to fill out. There's more power in there. There's some slight swing adjustments that he's shown in the past that I think will come in the future. I think guys who have gotten in there a lot and have the track record of his freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, the trajectory of what he could be is definitely there. He's played shortstop for that Mulberry team. What I was impressed with at IMG at the preseason kickoff was the fact that those hands are really soft. Will he stick it short? We'll see. The foot speed's not elite. He may have to shift his third, second, but you can definitely send him off at shortstop because of the way the hands work and the strength of the arm. But the frame's going to continue to develop. He already has that hit tool, bat to ball. That power comes into play, and all of a sudden you're talking about a guy who could really be an impact professional player.
Here in Georgia and subsequently in the national level, Florida State signee John Stutzer has been a topic of conversation for years. I mean, the athleticism is very real, doubled as a football star for Pope. This mix of power and speed making Stutzer undeniable, and he is now 40th on the big board.
Yeah, and you know what? Hudson Graham and Ian Smith down in Georgia have done such a great job following Stutzer. The amount of information that we compile internally gets passed around. We're getting multiple looks at guys, different looks. At this point, you're just betting on this kid, right? An aggressive athlete with aptitude, can really get after on the football field. I was watching him just absolutely moss guys on the gridiron, going after catches for Pope there. But at the Super 60 center field, shortstop, he's probably going to go. He's a 6'5" runner. He's got great burst. He can get a quick first step, obviously, with what he's shown as a wide receiver. Bat the ball, power. I talked about in the summer, like those Luke Dickerson type molds. Right. Really good athlete. He's not quite as big and physical as Luke Dickerson with that upside of the frame, but he can really get after it. And I'm a huge fan. At this point, we're just betting on this kid. And for as many guys were like, oh, you can find some, oh, he's only 5'10", 5'11". He's a right-handed hitter. It doesn't matter. This kid's going to hit. He's going to find a way to get it done. He's going to impact the game. Love John Stutzer. Can't wait to see what he becomes.
Yeah, we are all on Team Stutzer right now. So being a lefty, we were not made for this world. You get marks in your hands when you write. It's hard to use scissors. But on the mound, it can be pure magic. And this prep draft class is case in point. It starts with Illinois' Cameron Appenzeller, Oregon's Cruz Schoolcraft. The overall depth of the left-handers in this class, it's become absolutely riveting.
It's been one of the cool things in my travels, right? Going out and you're looking for, what is the draft headlines, where are we going to find depth, where can you get essentially value? And you look at Appenzeller and Schoolcraft at the top. Appenzeller played basketball. He was all state in Illinois, does his thing, probably going to start out slow. It's going to take a few months to warm up for him. Cruz Schoolcraft's going to come out throwing heat, but he also hits. So big frame. He's going to have tons of eyes on him. And then I go down and see Johnny Slawinski, who you and I both know from the All-American game. He looks the part, one of the more dynamic deliveries in the class, quick arm, small town, hasn't had the coaching that any of these guys have had. This kid is almost self-taught with one of the best deliveries that we've seen in quite some time. He's only going to get better. Briggs McKenzie, All-American kid, North Carolina, LSU commit. He continues to rise. Those Carolina kids just continue to make jumps, and he's done that. The fastball's really playing well in the zone. He's getting whiffs with that, 3-pitch mix. And that takes away the fact that you get him on the bench and you just talk to him and you want this guy in your organization. Uli Fernsler, who's a kid who really blew up throughout the summer from Michigan. Great reports from preseason stuff. He's at Navi High School in Michigan. I'm trying to make my way there. How do I get there? I think it's about an hour away from Detroit's airport. We'll see what happens with regards to him. Jack Bauer, who's been down by you guys in Illinois. He was a guy who was in our top 10 early on in his high school career. Super easy to dream on. 3 pitches, and we've really stayed in on him for a long time. He's kind of scuffled last spring. Summer was a little bit up and down, but metrically, the thing that I always think about is like, you go into spring training, who looks like a Jack Bauer? Hey, who's throwing 100 miles an hour from the left side with 3 pitches that are all great metrically, 3,000-ish RPM on the slider. He kills spin on the changeup, has feel for those pitches. Hey, those guys don't grow on trees. Have to stay on a guy like that because there's a lot of value if that clicks. He's up to 102 now. He comes down to Lake Point, puts an emphatic stamp on saying, hey, Mr. Appenzeller, you better get ready because I'm coming. Xavier Mitchell down in Texas, he's done great things. Longer season, right? He started throwing in January. So you're kind of looking at him earlier on because of the fact that he gets going. It's a long season down in Texas. He makes a jump, gets up to 94. The stuff is really playing. Alex Barr in Indiana, it's a big arm to dream on. He's a small town kid, but it's 3 pitches where, and Corey, I got to tell you, everybody is throwing 94, 95 now. It is insane what these guys are doing. Aiden Stillman, who's a kid in Florida, another Virginia commit who's up to 95. It's a little bit funky, but he can get those whiffs in the zone. He can make a jump. And then Ethan Rogers, who's kind of a super 60 guy where I'd call him a sleeper, but it was 3 pitches, can really spin it, can separate the curveball and slider. Up to 94, would probably jump. Another small town kid, made the most of his opportunity in Chicago, and now has eyes all over him as a potential late day one, but more likely a day two type guy.
Yeah, one more to throw out there. Talon Haley, who we saw out of Mississippi at Super 60 as well. A guy, yeah, and we love the backstory, and certainly we love the arm as well.
How do I forget Talon Haley? The most electric stuff. He was a kid that I was so excited for because we saw him with that Easley Baseball Club early on at NPI. This must have been 3 years ago. He goes through everything with the cancer treatments, and he has the surgeries. It's electric stuff. He can get those whiffs. We will see what happens. He's a Vanderbilt recruit, but shoot, this is a great year to be in the Magnolia State. There's a lot of draft talent there in Mississippi.
A whopping 19 new names join the top 100. We're going to put our focus on 6. Now, let's start off with Alabama shortstop Steele Hall, now 45th. Two-time junior feature gamer, Tennessee signee. Absolutely flies 6'4", 3 in the 60, and he's got juice to all fields.
Steele Hall was one of my favorite players in the 2026 class. From the first day, again, back to NPI, as he was just coming into his freshman year, he's taken big arm, 90-plus guys deep, and he's letting them know about it around the bases. Could really play with some moxie. The hands work. Always showed up at Lake Point. What I love about Steele Hall and where he's come is he did not do well at USA last year. And he'd probably be the first one to tell you he showed up. He did not belong on that field. He just didn't have a great week and didn't look the part. But he didn't cry about it. He got after it, worked his butt off. He's added strength, and he's really impacted himself to the fact where, hey, he reclassed, had the confidence in himself that he's always had. He's showing really well in Alabama this spring, which everybody thought he would, and has continued to grab that helium. He's committed to Tennessee, he can't make a wrong decision there, right? Either come out now and get paid or go to Tennessee, and you'll probably be a first rounder out of there because they seem to all be. So really excited to see what the upside is for Steele Hall, but he's a guy who's definitely had tons of helium this spring.
The Peach State's Dean Livingston, a Georgia signee, is 67th in the class, largely behind an arm that's into the upper 90s. The former feature gamer has come out raking. He's already hit 7 homers for Hebron. Last month, he hit for the cycle.
And that just ties into his athleticism. What's so exciting about him on the mound and the fact that he can really spin it, throw strikes. He's into the mid to upper 90s. The athleticism, the aforementioned athleticism we talked about, is outstanding. And even just being at that slot in this top 100, it's tough for right-handers, right? Prep right-handers. They're kind of like running backs. You can kind of grab them. We have a lot of them. We even put out a list of the top 50 right-handers in the prep class. That list could have been easily 75. And guys from about 5 or 6 through 60 are very similar. They each bring something different depending on your analytics department, what you like, what your player development can do. But Dean Livingston from the state of Georgia, they produce nonstop dudes. He's hitting home runs. He's athletic. Let's just bet on a kid like that.
Next up, Florida outfielder Remo Indomenico, Oklahoma State signee, runs a 6'5" in the 60. Exit velo up to 103.8. Also a guy who capitalized on the senior feature game spotlight. He's on the rise now up to 77th.
Shout out to Caden Hatcher and Rocco Arvasi in Florida. Remo, coming to uncommitted at our senior future games. There are dudes at the senior future games. Coaches, can't wait to see you guys there. It's going to be a another incredible event. We got some new stuff coming your way for that one. But Remo has done nothing but continue to get better. It's physical. You talked about that athleticism, can burst out of the box. The bat, the ball's there. It is some impactful swings. Loved what I saw from him at the preseason kickoff. But the first academy's got a really good lineup, so it just helps to go in there and see, hey, these guys are really good. They got some really good players here. But in Domenico, I could really see it being an early day 2 type guy where teams kind of push in and say, this young kid's just getting started.
Oregon signee Angel Laya out of Eastlake in California climbs up to 82nd. Big physical frame, 6'3", 190, triple-digit exit velos, runs a 6'7", 60, 90-plus outfield velo. And this is just an intriguing all-around player.
If you sit, you don't sit. And that's what Laya does. Left-handed pat, everything works smoothly. Really liked him at the Pro Case this past summer. And every year, the West Coast Pro Case, California, there are guys like Angel Laya there, Tate Salvacine, who were not quite famous yet, but they make their impact and start their path at that Pro Case to start the summer. I can't wait to go do it this year. To all you West Coast guys, I'll see you down there. But the bat, the ball, the power, everything that he does at the plate is really impactful. He comes from Eastlake High School. It's produced some really good players. They can hit. They know what they're doing down there in San Diego. I could see him being a guy, especially if a team really likes him, kind of sneaking in that back end of day 1, like third-ish round, if not early day 2, because this guy's going to hit and really like what he's about. He's only getting started.
Nevada catcher Brady Dallimore, a TCU signing and past feature gamer, has a pop time down to 185, catcher velo up to 87. But the bat shooter, he's hitting 600 for Palo Verde right now, 17 extra base hits, and is up to 94th in the class rankings.
And you know what? He's had some freak injuries. I think it was like a meniscus last summer, and he was supposed to come to the Super 60, but he gets hit in the hammock, has to pull out of it. Which really stunk because he's very excited. It was actually the first invite to the Super 60, Brady Dallimore. But it's an absolute hand cannon that he has attached to his arm. Every time I see him, I think, like, this is Paul Skeens. Like, can we just like get him on the mound for a second? He'll probably hit 100, but can really receive, plays hard. The frame is super physical. It's about 6'4". It looks pro, right? It's pro ready. He's going to continue to fill out. The bat, the ball has continued to increase. He has always had the high exit velocities since his future games. I think he led the future games that year in exit velocities throughout BP. But that's continued to shine. I watched him go oppo with a home run, and I think he's going to continue rising. There's some helium starting to grow there as he gets on the field more and more at Palo Verde. Great kid, works hard, hand cannon behind the dish, physical frame, power, bat to ball. I'm just naming off all the good things there are to like about Brady Dallimore.
Dallimore did not make it to Super 60, but Brandon Shannon did, and the Louisville signee out of Illinois absolutely made some noise. The fastball was up to 95, a curve of 2,500 plus spin, all has him cracking the top 100 at 99th.
I love Brandon Shannon. Like at the Super 60, he was a guy even leading up there, talking with Drew DiCascio, like, we need to get these Illinois kids here. They always pop. There's always big arms throughout the spring, and there's so many of them. There's even more right now that we could talk about. Drew Winslow, there's some other guys. But Brady Shannon's fastball, just the explosiveness out of the hand, it takes a lot for me to watch these guys and just be like, whoa, because they're all so good, right, at the Super 60. But that fastball hopped out of the hand. I'd expect him to be potentially near triple digits later on the spring if it continues to warm up, which – shoot, it feels like everybody in Illinois is throwing triple digits at this point, but really good athlete. Louisville commit. You just look at a guy like that. It's like, oh, at Louisville, he could easily blow up into a big time dude. If not this year, we'll see what the scouting world has to say about that. But I love the upside of a kid like Brandon Shannon, who still is raw, has some polishing to come, but has elite level stuff.
Well, it's clear the class of 2025 is going to have plenty to say about the makeup at the top of this MLB draft, and it goes well beyond the player most expected to go number 1 in Ethan Holiday. The draft coverage continues at prepbaseball.com, so make sure you keep it locked there for plenty more and don't go anywhere. We'll have lots more coffee and curveballs coming your way. So until next time, I'm Cory McCartney, that's Shooter Hunt, and we'll see you at the Diamond.